for joining the session today, Alma Interoperability, RapidILL. I'm going to turn on my video just briefly so you could all see me. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm Mike Richins, Director of Product Management for RapidILL. I have a long history in resource sharing. I came from Colorado State University, where I worked in interlibrary learning for many years. RapidILL was developed at Colorado State University. I'll touch on that here in just a bit. And I came over to Ex Libris as part of the acquisition of RapidILL in 2019. So very nice to be talking with all of you today. Excited to share information about how RapidILL works with Alma. So I'll go ahead and shut my video off. And what I plan to cover today, and again, any questions that you have during the session, please put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, and I've saved some time at the end to talk through them. But if anything comes up that's urgent, I'll try to address it in the session. So I want to start with a general overview of RapidILL. I'm guessing there might be some folks in the audience that are not a RapidILL member or maybe interested in a little bit of information about RapidILL before we talk about the integration. I will then provide a Alma RapidILL demo, a full demo from the patron placement request to borrowing to the lending workflow. And I'm going to end with some tips and best practices around RapidILL, which also applies to RapidILL within the Alma environment, and then end the session with a Q&A. So first, just a general overview of RapidILL. I want to start with a short story. And the story is around RapidILL and the community. And we have this sort of tradition with RapidILL of working with libraries and coming up with maybe what some would consider to be crazy ideas and things to do to engage the community, get folks excited about participating, doing resource sharing. And so when the pandemic struck last year and libraries were moving to remote work, we had this question of what could we do to work with the community, maybe engage libraries that are outside of the Rapid community, and try to get libraries to exchange material with each other in a very efficient way over the next few months. And so we had this crazy idea of what if we just opened up RapidILL to every library? And so I worked with a couple close partner libraries in the system and asked them, hey, would you be willing to open your collections to non-Rapid libraries over the next few months? And they came back and said, yes, this sounds great. Sign us up. And with the idea that they would be filling requests for non-Rapid libraries, no expectation of reciprocal lending. It'd be a one-way process of them filling requests for these other libraries. So I sent a message out to the Rapid listserv, and within one day, over 100 libraries had volunteered to participate in this initiative. And by the end of the project, which lasted between April and September last year, we had nearly 200 libraries in the Rapid community participate as lenders. Around 250 libraries participate as borrowers worldwide, over 30 countries, and around 35,000 requests were placed and processed through this initiative. So I want to start out with this story just to provide you with a sense of, one, the sort of devotion to resource sharing that the library community has, and two, the specific approach and sort of willingness of libraries within RapidILL to help out other libraries in need. And it really was a silver lining in a year that was quite problematic. And one of the cool things that came out of this was that out of the 250 libraries that were involved in the initiative as borrowers, about half of them have since joined up to be full members. So what is RapidILL? It's a solution for very fast and cost-effective document delivery created by research sharing librarians at Colorado State University to answer the unique needs of article and book chapter requests. It complements all current research sharing solutions from Iliad, Tipasa, Relay, Clio, and important for today, Alma. So it integrates with all these platforms. And it's a very community-focused product. So it was developed at Colorado State University after a flood, and some of you may have heard the story. In 1997, there was a 500-year flood in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it flooded the campus, and it flooded the library. And at the time, the library had just moved over 500,000 volumes of the bound journal collection to the basement, and those volumes were completely destroyed. So there was a real need to get material from other libraries that would normally be available in the local collections. So we worked with close libraries to have a process where CSU patrons can request and get requests filled from these handful of libraries in a very fast turnaround time, 24 hours. And we developed a technical infrastructure to support this resource sharing process. And so it was a one-way process initially, and it worked so well, we made it a two-way process. In 2004, 2005, we expanded RapidILL to other libraries in North America, eventually expanding out to other libraries around the world. So currently there are over 500 libraries worldwide that use Rapid, a lot in North America, but we also have a growing group in Europe, a large group in the UK, Belgium, France, Italy, then Israel, South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand. We just had a library join also in mainland China, and more recently, libraries in Latin America, Mexico, and Peru. So it's becoming a more global service, and the goal of participating in Rapid is to provide material very quickly, fast turnaround time. Every library commits to 24-hour turnaround time fulfillment, and no one charges each other. So in my next slide, which covers sort of the key features of RapidILL, again, there are no charges in Rapid. Everything is reciprocal, no IFM fees, no invoicing. We wanted to reduce the amount of overhead needed to manage resource sharing requests. Article delivery time of 24 hours, so you commit to filling requests within a 24-hour time frame. Now, how do we work with libraries to make sure they are able to do this? And this is where the Rapid technology kicks in. So every library that works with Rapid, we receive holdings files from you. And working with these holdings files, we are able to, at a very accurate level, pull years, volumes from journal holdings. So we have a very good representation of what is in your collection, and you're also able to work with us to define which collections are lendable, which are not, which might be lendable to other libraries in your own country, and which would be lendable to all of your partner libraries. And for electronic collections, you're able to identify which collections, again, you have lendable either to just other libraries in your own country or to libraries around the world. So the goal here is you're really only receiving requests for material that you have in your collections, material that you're able to lend, and every request comes through with information for you to right away process that request, call number, location, or a link to get to the material in your electronic assets. It's really important for us to work to automate the service when possible. So the borrowing side in RapidILL can be completely automated. I'm going to show you here in a few minutes how that looks in Alma. So most libraries that have an integration into their interlibrary loan management platform, whether it's Iliad, Tipasa, Alma, Clio, Relay, usually have this process automated, which means that as patrons place requests, those requests can go directly out to RapidILL. And once a request is filled in RapidILL, that request can be automatically delivered to the end user. And another thing that we do is we have a fairly dynamic load leveling process. So the goal with Rapid is we're trying to evenly distribute requests to libraries in the system. So you could expect as a Rapid library to have a relatively balanced borrowing and lending activity. And we also have what we call time zone awareness, which means that we are also routing your requests based on where your lending partners are in the world. So if it's towards the end of your workday, you're placing a request, the chance of another library in your time zone being able to fill that request is probably relatively minimal. So we might ship that request to a library west of you in another time zone. So we're both trying to load level and also get requests to libraries that are in a good position to fill that request very quickly. On the lending side, which we've already talked about, the workflow is very streamlined, efficient. It's built in, integrated into what you're already doing for lending workflows in your interlibrary loan management platform. A very fast and efficient process. Finally, the onboarding in terms of patrons is there is no impact. They continue to place the requests the same way that they do now. It just is the behind the scenes, those requests are going out to RapidILL. They just find that the requests are being delivered faster. So what does this mean in terms of results? So the past couple of years, about 1.5 million requests were placed into the Rapid system per year. The fill rate usually is between 95 and 97%, so you can expect to see most of your article and book chapter requests being fulfilled through RapidILL. The average turnaround time is generally around 11 hours. It's actually been faster over the past year, and one of the things that we were kind of interested in during the pandemic was, well, how will this affect Rapid in terms of fill rate, in terms of turnaround time? And the fill rate remained the same, interestingly enough, and also the turnaround time decreased. And I think a lot of that had to do with libraries primarily filling from their electronic collections rather than print. And of course, now we have over 500 libraries worldwide in the system. So just a couple quick notes on Rapid implementation in case you're curious. Borrowing can be set up quite easily. There's very little setup involved. In fact, we could usually have libraries set up as a borrower within Rapid within a couple days, and you could have that integrated into your local system. On the lending side, that takes a little bit longer because we do need to work with you to receive holdings files, and that process can take a little bit longer. So oftentimes it's around 2 months, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter. Really depends on your ability to provide us with files, get that set up, and investing in the time needed to get everything in place there. But the holdings are very important for RapidILL. We don't need a whole lot of information, but the information that we do receive from you is very important in us being able to identify you as a lender. So we need standard number, ISSN, ISBN, OCLC number, journal book title, location, call number, years and volumes for journals, and year of publication for books. So not a whole lot of data, but this is how we identify you as a potential lender for requests in the Rapid system. And just a slide to show you graphically our current membership throughout the world. Again, a lot of libraries in North America, but we are expanding in other areas from Europe to APAC region, Latin America, and it's going to be a very nice global platform, and which is wonderful because every new library that joins has something unique to share with the community. As we have libraries joining around the world, we're able to really leverage that time zone awareness, the load leveling to really get things filled even faster. Okay, so let's talk specifically now about the Alma-RapidILL integration. So this was something that we developed. I think we finished development on this a year ago, although we are still making some developments, enhancements, and we will into the future. But the integration provides a full end-to-end workflow from placing a borrow request to patron delivery. It supports borrowing automation, so you can have requests come in from your users into Alma and have those requests go directly out to RapidILL for processing without any staff mediation. It supports delivery to the end user, so you could have the process set up to automatically deliver files that are filled through RapidILL to the end user, to your patron. And for the lending side, it integrates with our RapidILL RapidX delivery process. And what this means is that it doesn't matter what platform you are using for RapidILL, either as a borrower or as a lender. Our goal is to make sure that what you are using in terms of delivery works best for your system. So with Alma, we have the borrowing workflows, lending workflows integrated into Alma. All that workflow happens within Alma, and delivery happens via Alma processes, which I'll show you here in a second. If you're using Iliad, however, you are simply using Odyssey transmission for both delivery and receiving. It doesn't matter if the other library is using Odyssey or not. Rapid will act as an intermediary between you and the other library to make sure that file transmission is successful. So that means you're able to work with Rapid to have a very streamlined workflow for both borrowing and lending in terms of delivery, and take advantage of automated delivery to your end user if you have that available in your local system. All of the copyright management tools and workflows in Alma Resource Sharing are also supported for your rapid workflows. So, you can have a workflow where everything is coming in from your patrons and are going directly out to RapidILL. You might want to have some sort of copyright review in the workflow, however, so you can set up rules to where maybe if a request has exceeded a certain number of, a title has exceeded a certain number of requests within a particular time frame, you might want to review that request for copyright, and so you're able to set that up. Or you might want to say, well, I do want requests to be identified as exceeding copyright, but I want to go ahead and have that request sent out through resource sharing into RapidILL for processing, and then I will manage copyright at a later date. So there's a lot of flexibility with Alma Resource Sharing around how you work with, numerous resource sharing systems, but RapidILL specifically, and also in relation to copyright management. Okay, so let me go ahead and run a demo of the platform. So I'm going to move to a browser. And we're going to show this first from the patron perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and do a search here for an article I'm interested in. That's not what I wanted. That's a link to the webinar. Sorry about that. Let me find. Go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a search here for an article I would like. And I'm not finding the exact article I'm looking for, so I'm going to expand my search results outside of my local collections. And here's the article I want from the Journal of the Franklin Institute. We don't have access to it locally, so what I'm going to do is place a resource sharing request. So here we go, resource sharing. I'm going to place this request into Alma. And I'm going to scroll down. I will click that I understand and acknowledge copyright, and I will go ahead and send the request. So now this request is being submitted to our Alma environment, and I'm going to switch gears now, and I'm going to look at Alma. So I'll pull up in Alma here, and here is a demo environment for Alma. And I'm going to go ahead here and look at our barring requests. Okay, and here we go. And over here in the facet area, I'm going to click on today's requests. Okay, and here is the request that we have just submitted. Now, what you see here is that the request has already been sent out to RapidILL. So we didn't have to do any work in terms of manually sending this request to Rapid. We didn't have to do any work around identifying lenders, figuring out who to send the request to. All that happened automatically. Now, let's say that your patron places a request and it is something that is in your local collection. Since we have your holdings files loaded into Rapid, we can also identify if you're attempting to place a request for something that is in your collection. So Rapid will return the request back to you. So you'd be able to pull it up here in Alma. And there'll be a note to indicate, hey, you own this material. Here's the call number and location. And you're able to do whatever your local policy is, local document delivery to your user, send it back to your user, or in the event that you can't actually fill it from your local collection, you always have the ability to override that request and to push it into Rapid anyway. But this request here has gone into Rapid. You can see request into partner RapidILL. I think now if I go ahead and refresh it, we could see that it's already been assigned to a library. So the process that Rapid runs to identify the potential lenders, run the load leveling, the times awareness, that usually takes a few seconds when you submit a request, and then it has been, then it routes to a lender for processing. So what does that process look like? So I'm going to move over to a different Alma environment. This is our lending environment. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up our lending requests. And over here on the left side, I'm going to fast it to today's requests. And here's the request that has just come in from that borrowing library. And now we could go ahead and manage that request. So we could see here a couple of things. One, that it came in from RapidILL. We could see who the borrowing library is. We could also see from here that it is part of our digital collections. We could see digital electronic collections. And we could go ahead and process the request from here. Now, there are a number of things we could do to manage the request as a lender. Maybe we can't fill this request. So we have the ability to cancel it if we need to by choosing reject. And we have the ability to include some sort of a reason for no for canceling the request. And the request would then be updated in RapidILL, and it would likely be routed to another lender in the system for processing. We also have the ability to update the request as a bad citation. So let's say this request came in, there was an issue with the citation, and we can't fill the request, but we don't want the request to go on to another library in the system because no other library is going to be able to manage that request because maybe the volume year doesn't match, they used the incorrect ISSN, it was missing information. So we can use the bad citation update to let the borrowing library know, hey, this request came through, we received it, we can't fill it, and there's an issue with the citation or some other issue that we feel that you should review. So you could update as a bad citation to send it back to the borrowing library for their review. For this request, I'm going to instead choose Manage Fulfillment Options. And this is where we could see more information about the request. Is it in our print collection, electronic? We could see here again that it is in our electronic collection, and this is where we could follow this link to get to the article in our electronic assets. I won't follow through to get to that PDF, but the idea there is you would go ahead and find the resource in your local collections, download the PDF to process it. So how do we fill this request from a lender perspective? So down here, we have the option to ship item digitally. So I'll choose that. And we can either browse to where this file is saved on our computer, or, which I'll demonstrate here, we could actually drag and drop a file into Alma. So here's a folder I have of some demo files. So I have a RapidILL demo here. I will drag and drop it over into Alma. And now choose ship. And now this request has been processed on our end in Alma. The file is being delivered to RapidILL and then being delivered to the borrowing library through their Alma environment. Or maybe we are lending this request and it's going to a library that's using TPASA. So behind the scenes, Alma's getting the file to a RapidILL, which is then delivering the file to that TPASA library through article exchange or through Odyssey transmission if they're an ILLIAD user. So again, it doesn't matter in terms of your processing what system the borrowing library is using. You could just use a system that works best for you and the one that's developed to work with Rapid within your platform. So that's the process for Alma. And again, if you're using TPASA, it's article exchange, ILLIAD, Odyssey transmission, and so on. So now behind the scenes, that file again is being delivered to Rapid. It's being processed and will be delivered to the borrowing library. That process can take a couple minutes. Let's go ahead and move back over to our borrowing environment. I'll refresh. And it looks like that request has already been processed. So what I'm going to do now is check my email. And here is my email notification now from a pager perspective that the request has been updated to filled. And now we have a link to download the resource. So I could download it directly from this email that I received, or I could download it from my Primo account. So I will go ahead here and choose, and this looks a little weird because it's our demo environment, so we have a number of different platforms here that we could show. For you, this would be customizable. You would just have the one link your user could get to accessing the file. I'll go ahead and click here, log in, download the file, go into my downloads folder and pull open my field request. Okay, so here's the file. RapidILL has actually added a cover sheet to the file that includes borrow lint information, citation information, a copyright statement that can be customized by the lending library. You can see here this has a US copyright statement, but you could edit this to read as you want as the lender. And then if I go to the next page, here is the material that I have requested. So that's the full end-to-end workflow for managing requests in Alma for RapidILL. So hopefully that was helpful. Checking to see if we have any questions that have come in. Doesn't look like anything yet. So I have a couple other things to share, but please go ahead and send me questions in the chat. So I want to touch on a couple tips and best practices. I'm going to start here with the lending side. And the things I'm going to talk about here, they apply to Alma, but they also apply to other platforms you might use to work with Rapid. So with the lending side, lending volume, as I mentioned earlier, we work with libraries to have a relatively balanced borrowing and lending ratio. However, we can work with libraries to change this balance as needed. So oftentimes libraries in Rapid want to be a net lender, which is great to have net lenders because we have libraries that are usually implementing the service. They get started with borrowing and then they add lending later. So you can be a net lender in the Rapid system if you'd like. We also have libraries that might need to have lending reduced. So this actually happened sometimes during over the past year with libraries that had less staff, they didn't have access to student help, and they reached out to us and said, hey, can we have our lending volume reduced over the next couple weeks? And that's something we could do as well. Or if you anticipate needing to have reduced volume for an upcoming period of time because you have folks on vacation or at a conference, let us know. We will work with you to adjust your lending volume temporarily. So we do what we can to have a good balance for you for borrowing and lending, but you're always welcome to reach out to us if you find that you want to have that lending volume adjusted, either lowered or increased. Always happy to work with libraries on that. You're also always able to schedule your lending to be offline as needed. We have a page through our Rapid web environment that you're able to go to, schedule your lending to be offline up to a year in advance. So if you know what days you can't fill requests over, say, the winter break, you can schedule that ahead of time. So feel free to use that to make sure you're not receiving requests for during times when you can't fill requests. And we're also going to be working to have this process integrated into Alma. And I think that might be coming sometime next year. So if you are an Alma library working with RapidILL, you'll be able to set your RapidILL lending on and off via Alma configuration. Another thing that I thought would be helpful to just talk about here in terms of best practices is with RapidILL, the goal here is for fast turnaround time. And one of the things that I always talk about in the training for lending is we practice what we call a look once workflow, which means that go out for material you have in your print collections. If you find out on shelf, that's great, process it, but don't worry about spending time to hunt down material to scan if you can't find it on the shelf. We prefer you to go ahead and cancel this request if you need to, and to give another library a chance to fill it that might be able to get to that quicker than you are able to. And for some libraries, and I include myself in terms of this approach, because I spend a lot of time working on lending requests at CSU. There is sort of a hope and kind of a focus of, I want to fill as many requests as I can, and I totally get that. But for RapidILL, if you're not able to find it right away, it's oftentimes better to go ahead and cancel that request to move it on to another library. We also always say that, hey, we know that day-to-day resource sharing can be quite dynamic, and some days things just happen, and maybe you can't fill all of your requests for that particular day. For RapidILL, if you need to, it's fine to cancel your request if you're unable to get to them that day. Go ahead and cancel them, move them on to another library. That's totally fine. Finally, from a lending perspective, the holdings are very key. So please reach out if you ever run into any issues, you're receiving requests for material that you can't fill from, call numbers, locations aren't quite right. Let us know. We will work with you to resolve that issue. Okay, so a couple things from a borrower perspective. We always emphasize automating, so automate your workflows as much as you can. And I know a lot of libraries have reservations maybe about automating the workflows. Well, I don't think my patrons place the best requests in terms of citations. I kind of want to check these requests before they go into a resource sharing system. I always recommend libraries at least try it. Give it a chance to see how it goes. You'll find that I think that most of those requests come through are able to be processed successfully. But there is part of being in RapidILL where the automation means that occasionally as a lender, you're going to see a strange request here and there. So an example of this would be you might have borrowing set up to be automated, and maybe a book chapter request comes through and gets routed into the Rapid system. But it's not really a book chapter request. The patron actually put in the book chapter title field, I need entire book. So it's not really a book chapter request. They want the entire thing. But the lender gets that request and can cancel it through that bad citation update that I showed you earlier. So I always recommend automating the workflows as much as you can. If you have questions about that, definitely reach out to us. We are happy to assist. I touched on this earlier, but another thing that is really important that I always talk about when working with libraries is push the system as much as possible, meaning that let's say that we tell you, hey, this thing that you're trying to request the RapidILL is something that you actually have in your local collections. If you can't get to that material, go ahead and push the request into RapidILL. This actually happened quite a bit over the past year for libraries that were working remote. They didn't have access to those print collections. They couldn't fill some of those requests. So they could use RapidILL to get that request filled from a partner library, and that's completely acceptable. So within Alma, there's a workflow for that. In Iliad, there's a workflow for that. You can route requests to awaiting rapid local sending. There's a process for that in TPASA, in Clio, and if you're using the Rapid web page, through that workflow as well. So if you're not sure how to use this workflow to get that request into Rapid, if it's something that you own, but you want that request to be filled by a Rapid partner, definitely reach out. Use resend and the move on feature. So down here in my screenshot, I have a request that was recently filled. In this case, it was by Internet Archive. And let's say that Internet Archive filled this request, but maybe it's the wrong file. Maybe they sent the wrong article. You're always able to go to the Rapid web page, to the status check page, and request a resend. You'd be able to click this resend action button here, add a resend comment, incorrect article was sent, pages were missing, and send the request back to the bargaining library so they could go ahead and hopefully provide you a better copy, or they also have the ability to cancel that request to move it on to another lender in the system. We also have a feature called Move On, and the difference there is that Move On will actually reactivate a request and send it to another library, not the original lender of the request. So use this in the scenario that you get a request filled by a partner library and you get the file, there's something problematic with it, and there's no way that that lender is going to be able to provide a good copy. It could be because it's from their print material and a page was torn out, or the gutters are really bad, or some text was marked over. So you could use the move on feature to reactivate a request, but send it to a different library in Rapid. So again, this is through the Rapid status check page. Finally, and this is something that I've been talking a lot with libraries recently, work with us to extend your Rapid ecosystem. We have a number of options that aren't on by default when you join Rapid that you have to ask us to get in place. One of those, and the most recent one, is the Internet Archive. So the Internet Archive joined RapidILL recently, and they are filling article and book chapter requests from their extensive collection of print journals, monographs, and microform. And they're doing so very well integrated into the Rapid workflow. So there's no actual setup needed on your end. You just need to let us know, hey, we want to add Internet Archive as a potential supplier. It would all be integrated into your current existing RapidILL workflows. Everything's happens behind the scenes. They're actually a lender of first resort, so if they do have the material in their collections, they would be the first to receive your request. And they are very fast too. You can see here in this example that they actually field this request within 10 minutes of receiving it. So a very fast supplier in Rapid. We also have Linda Hall Library as an option for RapidILL. And Linda Hall Library can field requests, again, within 24 hours. They do have a charge because they are a document delivery service. I believe they have a reduced charge for RapidILL members, which is currently a $9 fee per request. We also have Reference Desk as a potential supplier for RapidILL. And the way that Linda Hall Library and Reference Desk work with Rapid, that's a little bit different than the Internet Archive, is they are suppliers of last resort. So if you add Linda Hall Library or Reference Desk as part of your Rapid group of potential lenders, they would be added as the last resort. So a request that you place would go through all other libraries in Rapid, if other libraries own the material that you're requesting. And for a last resort, if no other library is able to fill the request, then the request will be routed to either Linda Hall Library or Reference Desk if they own the material and are able to fill. And Reference Desk has a very fast turnaround time for requests. Again, they're document delivery provider, so there is a transaction fee, and they also add copyright on top of that fee for that request that they fill. Okay. Rapid statistics, one of the things with the integration with Alma is that you have the ability to run Alma Analytics around your RapidILL activities. And if you're familiar with Alma Analytics, it's quite powerful. You can get a lot of really interesting information about your resource sharing activities. And you're going to be able to run reports for RapidILL as well. I have a couple examples here. We always have statistics available, however, through the RapidILL webpage. So there's summary reports. And that report provides you with some overall numbers about your Rapid participation, both for borrowing and lending. We have what is shown here as our detailed data report, which is essentially a list of all of the requests you either processed as a borrower or managed as a lender in 1 month chunks. So we have stats through the webpage as well. But if you're using the Alma integration, you could use Alma Analytics. And if you're using another platform like Iliad or Tipasa, the statistics would be available via those platforms as well. Okay, so to end my presentation, I have a couple of links, and I believe you'll be sent after the session the slide deck, so you'll have the links in that slide deck. And so we have a link to our RapidILL product page, which has a lot of information, has links to other presentations around RapidILL, a lot of information there. I provided a link to our new product, Rapido, which is a completely, entirely different discussion and presentation. It's our new resource sharing product that is a full end-to-end solution. So you can get to more information there through this link. I have a link to the RapidILL Knowledge Center. So if you want to see knowledge articles around RapidILL, workflows, setup, how you would integrate it into Alma from a technical perspective. All that can be found through the Knowledge Center. An email listserv. You could subscribe to the RapidILL email listserv, which isn't heavily used, so don't worry about getting bombarded with a ton of different emails, but it is a useful platform to find out information about RapidILL, see what people are talking about, get updates. And finally, recently, we developed a resource sharing community platform. One of the things that came out of a lot of conversations we had over the past year working with libraries is, there's just so much information in so many different spaces, listservs, Facebook groups, other places. It would be really nice for us to have like one place to see all this information. So we did create a community platform that our goal here is to have a platform that is, we're running it as Ex Libris, but it is vendor neutral. So we want to include information about resource sharing for all different vendors, all different sorts of initiatives. You can see here that I recently posted an article about NISA awarded the Mellon funding for a controlled digital lending project. So all sorts of things around resource sharing, a lot of discussions happening there. So feel free to log into that platform, create an account, and join the conversation. So that is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions. I think we have quite a bit of time too. So any questions about the RapidILL Alma integration, any questions about RapidILL in general, happy to answer. If you have any questions about like the Internet Archive or anything else I've talked about today, happy to answer any of those questions.
Mike, while we wait for questions, I'll just reiterate to everybody. First of all, please do feel free to submit any questions you have in the chat. But also just a heads up that we will be sending you the recording to today's webinar and the PowerPoint via email by end of business tomorrow. So you can count on seeing that relatively soon. I still am not seeing any questions, so I'll just say one last thing is we do have a survey that'll automatically pop up as you leave today's session. We very much appreciate any feedback that you'd like to share with us. It helps inform us as we continue to plan other sessions in this series. I did just see a question come in, Mike, asking, is there any documentation on the best ways to export holdings or generate holdings report from Alma?
A really good question. So yes, let me get out of my slide deck here. So if we actually go into, I'll go to my browser here, and we go into our Knowledge Center, and we can go here and choose RapidILL. This is where we have all those knowledge articles, some training videos, product material, and we have in our implementation guide, Alma Holdings Harvest for RapidILL. We actually just completely rewrote this. Again, part of joining RapidILL is providing holdings files, and that is oftentimes the most time-intensive part of the implementation process. And for libraries that are using Alma, you do need to go in and create, set this process up, create different sets. So this information is listed here. We have had a lot of feedback from libraries about this documentation. So we just completely rewrote it. I think we just actually published this, I think yesterday actually. So all this has been rewritten, and you could go through and read what's required here, how to create the sets, how to identify what's going to be lendable or not. And then you could also reach out to us if you have any questions on that process.
Mike, I saw another question come through saying, do you have an example in Primo's My Account of what these requests look like while they are pending? Are they differentiated from physical resource sharing requests?
Yeah, let me see. If I pull open my card here, I don't know if I have anything that are pending. I think most of these are related to RapidILL. And I think from from this view, everything looks pretty similar in terms of the request in back in the platform. So I don't think, for example, that you would identify from this view here from a patient perspective whether it was RapidILL or not. It would just you would just show that the request went out to a different resource sharing system for request management. So, and I think also something to show here that we're looking at this is now we could see some of these requests have been filled, and this is where we're able to access and download the file of the filled request.
All right, I'm not seeing anything else coming through, so we can give it a minute. Anybody else, if you've got questions, please feel free to send them to all panelists in the chat.
And I think maybe just one other thing on my end to just point out is always available for you to view, even if you're not a current Rapid member, is through our rapid.exlibrisgroup.com page. We have a page that links to monthly statistics and a current member list. And this is where you go to find recent activity around RapidILL. We have monthly stats. You could see, for example, in September, the number of requests that were placed, the filled percentage, and the turnaround time. And down here is where you could see a list of current members by pods. So if you're interested in knowing which pods you might be able to participate in, who your partner libraries would be, reach out. An easy one here to find, though, and to look at would be the COSO pod, which is open to every Rapid library. So you could go to this page and expand out that list and see the list of libraries that you could borrow from and work with in the Rapid system. And out of the 500 plus libraries that are in Rapid, around 450 of them are in the COSO pod. It's open to every Rapid library. And most Rapid libraries do participate in the pod. So I'll put a link to this in the chat.
All right, Mike. Unless you got anything else, I think we're good to go ahead and call it a day.
Yeah, I think I'm set. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining me today. Hopefully the session was helpful. Definitely reach out if you have any questions. Share the recording and the slide deck with your colleagues. And yeah, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks so much, Mike. I hope everybody has a great day.